Welcome to Data Formats. This lesson is part of Module 03, Data Preparation. Let's get started. Let's now look at Lesson 3.1, Data Formats for Fine-Tuning. Here we can see the data format comparison. Let's now look at Overview. Here we can see the instruction anatomy. Before you can fine-tune a model, you need to understand how to structure your training data. Different tasks and model types require different data formats. Using the wrong format is one of the most common mistakes in fine-tuning. Duration, 30 minutes. Difficulty, beginner. Let's now look at learning objectives. Here we can see the format conversion flow. By the end of this lesson, you will understand the 4 main data formats for fine-tuning, know when to use each format, recognize common file formats, JSON, JSON-L, CSV, Parquet, understand the difference between base and instruct model data, be able to choose the right format for your project. Let's now look at the 4 main data formats. Here we can see the storage size comparison. Let's now look at 1, instruction format. Here we can see the JSON-L structure. Best for teaching models to follow directives. Here's the JSON code for this section, starting with structure, instruction, what you want the model to do, output, the desired response, optional, input field for additional context, when to use, general task completion, models like Llama, Mistral, instruct variants, teaching new capabilities, most common format for supervised fine-tuning, example with input. Here's the JSON code for this section, starting with E. Let's now look at 2, conversational format, chat format. Here we can see the alpaca format example. Best for multi-turn conversations, chatbots. Here's the JSON code for this section, starting with mes keys. Structure, messages, array of message objects. Each message has role and content. Roles, system, user, assistant, sometimes function, when to use, chat models, GPT style, Llama chat, Mistral instruct, multi-turn conversations, context-dependent responses, teaching personality and tone, customer service, tutoring, advice, benefits, natural conversation flow, system prompts, set behavior, handles context across turns, industry standard for chat models. Let's now look at 3, completion format. Here we can see the shared duped format example. Best for continue the text tasks, creative writing. Here's the JSON code for this section, starting with structure, text, complete text for continued pre-training, or prompt plus completion. For GPT-2, GPT-3 style models. No instruction, just raw text. When to use. Base models, not instruct. Creative writing continuations. Code completion, domain adaptation, medical, legal, technical text, continued pre-training on new knowledge. Note, this format is less common for modern instruction-tuned models. Let's now look at 4, Q&A format, question-answer. Here we can see the field mapping guide. Best for knowledge bases, FAQ, tutoring. Here's the JSON code for this section, starting with structure, question, the query or problem, answer, the solution or response. Sometimes uses context for retrieval-augmented tasks. When to use, FAQ systems, knowledge bases, tutoring applications, simple one-turn interactions, converting Q&A datasets to training data extended format with context. Here's the JSON code for this section, starting with. Let's now look at file formats for training data. Here we can see the format selection tree. Let's now look at 1, JSON, JavaScript object notation. So, here we can see the data validation flow. Here's the JSON code for this section, starting with my pros, human readable, widely supported, good for small datasets, cons, must load entire file into memory, slower for large datasets, no streaming support, best for 1,000 examples. Let's now look at 2. JSONal, JSON lines. Recommended. Extension .jsonl or .json with lines, 1 JSON object per line. Here's the JSONal code for this section, starting with instruction. Say hello, output, hello. Pros, can load line by line, memory efficient, easy to append new examples, support streaming, simple to create and edit. Cons, less human readable for large files, no built-in nested structures. Best for most fine-tuning projects, 100,000 plus examples. Creating JSONal in Python. Here's the Python code for this section, starting with import JSON. Let's now look at 3. CSV, comma-separated values. Here's the CSV code for this section, starting with instruction, output. Pros, Excel compatible, easy to create manually. Good for simple data. Cons, problematic with multi-line text, escaping issues, commas, quotes. Not ideal for complex structures. Best for simple data sets, quick prototyping. Let's now look at 4. Parquet, best for large data sets. Extension, Parquet binary columnar format, not human readable. Pros, highly compressed, extremely fast to load, efficient for large datasets, preserves data types, standard in data science. Cons, not human readable, requires libraries to read, write. Overkill for small datasets. Best for 10,000 examples, production datasets. Creating Parquet. Here's the Python code for this section, starting with import pandas as PD. Let's now look at base models versus instruct models, different data needs. Let's now look at base models. Examples. MetaLlama, Llama 3.1 8b, Mistral, Mistral 7b, VA, Guan1, training data format. Here's the JSON code for this section, starting with text. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Raw text, no instructions. Used for continued pre-training. Teaching new vocabulary, domain knowledge. Rare for most fine-tuning projects. Let's now look at instruct, chat models. Your focus. Examples. MetaLlama, Llama 3.1 8b instruct, Mistral, Mistral 7b instruct, V02, training data format. Here's the JSON code for this section, starting with D. Instruction response pairs, chat format with roles, used for supervised fine-tuning, SFT, what you'll use 95% of the time. Let's now look at choosing the right format for your project. Let's now look at decision tree. Here's the bash code for this section, starting with, are you working with a chat model, instruct, chat? Let's now look at examples by use case. Use case, format, file type, example structure, Fleischgebräs. It is customer service chatbot. Conversational, JSONal. Messages, system, user, assistant. Code explanation, instruction, JSONal. Instruction, input, output, medical Q&A or instruction, JSONal, question, answer, creative writing. Completion, JSONal, prompt, completion, JSON output teaching. Instruction, JSONal, instruction, output. Domain adaptation, completion, Parquet, text. Let's now look at practical examples. Let's now look at example 1, creating an instruction dataset. Your training data save as JSONL. Let's now look at example 2, creating a conversational dataset. Save as JSONL. Let's now look at example 3, converting CSV to JSONL. Read from CSV convert to instruction format. Let's now look at common mistakes and how to avoid them. Let's now look at mistake 1, inconsistent keys. Bad, different key names. Good, consistent keys. Let's now look at mistake 2, missing system prompts in chat format. Bad, no context. Good, clear context. Let's now look at mistake 3, using wrong format for model type. Bad, chat format for base model. Base models don't understand roles. Bad, raw text for instruct model. Instruct models expect instructions. Good, match format to model type base model, completion format. Let's now look at mistake 4, multi-line strings in CSV. Bad, line breaks, break CSV. Good, use JSON-L for multi-line text. Let's now look at hands-on exercise. Let's now look at exercise 1. Create your first dataset. Create a small dataset, 5 examples, for a recipe assistant that helps users modify recipes. Requirements. 1. Use the instruction format. 2. Save as JSON-L. 3. Include an instruction, input, and output for each example. Example structure. Here's the JSON code for this section, starting with do. Your task. Create 5 examples with different recipe modifications. Make vegetarian, make gluten-free, make healthier. Scale recipe up, double it. Add spicy variations. Click for solution. Save as JSON-L verify by reading. Let's now look at exercise 2, identify the right format. For each use case, identify the best format. 1. Training a code completion model, base model. 2. Customer service chatbot with multi-turn conversations. 3. Teaching a model to output JSON for structured data. 4. Building a FAQ answering system. 5. Domain adaptation for medical text, my. Click for answers. 1. Code completion, base model. Completion format, prompt, completion, or just text. 2. Customer service chatbot, conversational format, messages with roles. 3. JSON output, instruction format, instruction, JSON output. 4. FAQ system, Q&A format or instruction format. 5. Medical text, completion format, raw text for continued pre-training or substitutories. Let's now look at quick reference, format comparison. Format, so keys, use case, model type, example, instruction, instruction, output, input, task completion, instruct, translate, hello, hola, conversational, messages, role, content, chat, multi-turn, chat, instruct, customer support, completion, text or prompt, completion, text continuation, base, creative writing, Q&A, question, answer, knowledge, FAQ, instruct. What is AI? Let's now look at key takeaways. 1. Match format to model type. Base models need raw text. Instruct, chat models need structured formats. 2. Use JSON-L for most projects. Easy to create, memory efficient, support streaming. 3. Be consistent. Use the same keys and structure throughout your dataset. 4. Include system prompts. In conversational format, set expectations with system messages. 5. Choose based on task. Instruction for tasks, conversational for chat, Q&A for knowledge. Let's now look at knowledge check. Before moving on, make sure you can answer. 1. What are the 4 main data formats for fine-tuning? 2. When should you use JSON-L versus JSON versus Parquet? 3. What's the difference between instruction format and conversational format? 4. Why are system prompts important in chat format? 5. What format should you use for base models versus instruct models? Let's now look at assignment. Create a mini dataset, 10 examples, for your future fine-tuning project. Think about what you want to build. Customer service bot, code helper, writing assistant, domain expert, legal, medical, technical. Requirements. Choose the appropriate format. Save as JSON-L. Test that it loads correctly. Document what each example teaches starter code. Define your examples. Add your 10 examples here. Save as JSON-L verify. Let's now look at what's next. Now that you understand data formats, you're ready to learn how to work with Hugging Face datasets, the industry standard tool for loading, processing, and saving training data. Continue to Lesson 3.2, Hugging Face datasets. Let's now look at additional resources. Hugging Face dataset formats, JSON-L specification, chat template guide, Alpaca dataset format, popular instruction format, Share GPT format, popular conversational format. Made progress? Mark this lesson complete in your learning tracker. That wraps up data formats. Well done on completing this lesson. See you in the next one.